Cool. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen and we can get started. So let's see. Cool. So I'm gonna be doing this from my local host version of the API, but that's just because I might accidentally share an API key during this talk, and I don't want to have that be public knowledge. So yeah, when it comes to our API, you probably already know we have this is kind of where you go to get it, settings and then Hardcover API. And we have our docs here, which include some of the most common endpoints in our interface. But I'll kind of walk through some of those. So we probably won't be looking at the docs today, but they're a good reference for kind of a little more information about some of the most common endpoints. And one of the neat things about the docs is that you can add your own API key and then run the queries yourself right through here. So yeah, it's a pretty cool setup. So when getting started with the API, like kind of the easiest way is to open up the GraphQL console and either you can either do it from like api.hardcover.app and add it here as a as headers, like authorization and then that, um, or through Hasura, where you add authorization and then you copy paste the entire one from here. And kind of the best way to get started is to just run this query called just me. And yeah, me is just gonna be like your user ID. And anytime you go to this page, it'll generate a new key. So like every key is gonna be new. And every key will be for 1 year from the date you run it. And if you ever want to expire a key, we have a kind of a secret endpoint for that. Um, we want to like do better at that part, but for now, I think, let me see if it's in here. Um, we don't have a link in here. Maybe we have it here. Okay, yeah, we need to add a way. Okay, gonna take some notes over here. Okay, so yeah, this me endpoint is the same as the user. It's kind of like saying user where ID equals 1. And if I did like ID and username here, this is going to return the same thing, except like the me one is a neat one when you just want to like scope everything to you and you don't want to really worry about it. And the where clauses for that the GraphQL API generates are pretty robust, but for the most part, you're going to want to like be using IDs or like slugs, which are like when you say slugs, that's like hardcover app, books, like Hyperion. Like Hyperion is a slug. And so we use those quite a bit throughout the site. So for instance, um, if we wanted to get this book through the API, we do like books, where, and then slug equals Hyperion. And then you can kind of select what you'd want. So like to start off, like title and slug. Clean this up. So yeah, I think one of the biggest questions we always get about the API is like, how do I get authors for a book? Which is like a good question because it's not under authors. The reason it's not is because we have this idea of contributions to a book, and that allows us to have like different types of contributions. So like we have this contribution um, attribute within contribution. And if it's null or author, that pretty much means it's like the author. And then there's another relation from there that goes over to the name. And so that's how you kind of get the contribution. But kind of the recommended way is to use this cached contributors key. And that way, instead of having to add like all of this, you can just add that and it'll get like an array of all of the things. And that includes like a full thing about the author, including the URL to that author image. When it comes to series basically works the same way as these contributions. So there's another thing here for book series, and book series has a like a position. I'll just kind of get all the things about series because this part gets a little confusing. So it's like we have like a join table between books and series, and this is kind of like that join table. And that join table then connects to the series itself. And that's what has like the name of the series and the slug of the series. So like if we wanted to, we could take this and we'd be able to say like hardcover.app/series/that, and it would go there. And then within this book series part, you have like the position within the series, whether this is the featured series, and the featured series is kind of like the one that shows up here. So that way, there are a lot of books that are in multiple series, especially when it comes to like Brandon Sanderson and science fiction. So this is like the series that is the most identifiable for that book. And so kind of similar to contributions, there's a cached featured series, and that's the one that will show basically the book series and the series part that I just showed before, um, as well as more information about the series, like the number of books in the series and the number of primary books. And let's see. So that's like getting very general information, but I think like most of the people that I see using the API aren't using it for like book data. They're using it more for like their personal data. I know that was kind of the emphasis for why I started using Hardcover API. So I think my recommendation is to always like find out your user ID and use that in any queries you can. So the most relevant tables are probably all going to start with user underscore for things that are kind of owned by you. User books is probably the most important one. So user books is this connection between your user and a book, and you can only have one user book object per book, and it represents like everything having to do with your association with that book, or at least it's kind of a starting point for it. So for instance, we can do user book where, and then user ID equals 1. And then you could do like, I'm only going to get some of them because this will give everything. So I'm going to say order these by created at descending. Or actually, let's do last read date descending. And then I want to get just like the title, just to showcase the last couple. And then up here, we can also say limit of 10. Ordered by last read date, descending. Okay, so this is getting everything in that table, regardless of like if I read it or not. So that's one of the most common things is probably going to be like segregating this out by like want to read, read, that kind of thing. So that comes into play with the, you can do a where clause. Actually, let's just look at it here. So there's a status here. I just have to remember the name of the column. I know it has status in the name. Oh, I'm in books, no wonder. There we go. There's, now we're back down to the user book ones. And there should be something like user book status. And right, so like these are like want to read, read, want to read, read, want to read. Or another way to do that is like, we have this ID here. So we can say, okay, number 3 ID is read. So we could say in the where clause here, let's do user book status or status ID equals 3. Okay, so now it's like giving everything I've read. And yeah, there is a recording of it. I'll post it probably in the API channel after this is done. Well, I'll probably throw it on YouTube and then post it in the API channel. So yeah, we can get that last read date ordered by, but this doesn't seem to be like the most read books, the most recently read ones. Let me make sure I'm doing this order by right, because there's like a, uh, uh, um, oh, it's probably like null's last. Okay, yeah, okay, that was the difference. So it was including ones that had a last read date of null kind of mixed in with it. It's kind of a Postgres ordering issue. So null's last will show these are the ones I most recently read, and then yeah, this is exactly what I've most recently. I just finished Beach Read. I've been on a romance kick lately, so that was a fun one. And so let's see. So now we can. So that's it's kind of a ways to get your books, and then once you want to get like your actual reads, that's probably one of the next most important things. So we have another concept of a user book reads. Um, so this table is a kind of like every edition, like the started at date, the finished at date. It's a reference to the exact edition that you read, and it kind of like a snapshot of your current progress. And you can query this table directly, or you can do it as a subset of user books. So like here we can say user book reads, and I could say like finished at and started at. Let me change the order of these because having it in order. There we go. So now we can say like, these are the books I've read. That's when I started it. That's when I finished it. And pretty easy there. Like you can also do progress if you wanted for some that are in progress. That would probably be more towards like a status of in progress, which is it's probably that one. Yeah, because yeah, this one has some progress. And there's also ways to do some other aggregate data. Um, so this is kind of more advanced, but I'll just do a quick example of it because it's a fun one. If you wanted to do like me, and then if you did like user books aggregate aggregate um, count, it's going to get the number of books you've read, or you can say like distinct. Wait, is that going to do it? No. Um, yeah, so it's like you can kind of do this is like the number of book IDs in your user books, basically. So that way you don't have to like get the full query. You can use these underscore aggregate tables. You can kind of like play around with these. It kind of gets a little tricky sometimes to use them, but they can end up saving a lot of code if you can get them right. Let's see. Um, I think probably one of the other most common ones that people ask about is like genre data, things like that. And this is an area we're probably going to have to like redo at some point. But right now we have this thing called cached tags, and this will include this object that has the top five tags of genre, mood, content warning, and tag, as well as like the full. Oh, it's not. It's more than five. Yeah, that's cool. I think we just only show five on the site, but it shows more than that. And when it comes to like, let's say you wanted to get all the books in a genre, I think that's where it kind of gets a little tricky. So, like for instance, we have a concept of a tagging. So like tagging where um, tag slug equals. Actually, I'm probably doing this wrong. It probably starts with tag where slug equals science fiction. And so if we did just this, like tag where that equals science fiction, then it could be getting the tag of science fiction under the, and every tag has a tag category. So you think about it like this is like the family, like in a like a what is it like a phylum, and then so genre is kind of the top level, and then within that genre there's science fiction. So if you just did this query by itself, um, and there was a tag called science fiction as a mood, it would also show up with two rows here, and the second one would just be the same except with mood here. So it's kind of nice to like um, do this and limit it by the tag category. So you can say like tag category slug equals genre. Genre? Yeah, lowercase genre, because it's a slug and slugs are always lowercase. So our tag system, you could think of like there's only going to be those like couple of like five different categories, and then there's going to be a whole bunch of tags, and then within those tags, every time someone tags a book with something, that's this taggings association. And it can go to a book with it. So like book um, title. Actually, this is probably going to return a lot of rows because it would return every single book that's tagged with it. So like we can do that, and all of a sudden we're getting like the top 10 books tagged with science fiction, or just 10, not really the top 10. We're getting just 10. So if we wanted to order it, we could say order by book users count descending. And that's where it starts to take a little longer. So yeah. Um, and the reason we're getting multiple taggings of the same book is because we're getting like one user tagged this book with that, and a different user tagged this book by that. So might have to say like distinct on taggable ID. Maybe not. Oh, it has to match the order. Um, but yeah, that would be kind of where you'd start to look into how to like get all of these. Um, Getting like the most popular books for a tag, I feel like we're almost there, but Let's see if I can figure this out. Um, order by books users count descending. Um, mm, uh, this might be one of the times when it would be like using tag aggregate here and doing like order by. Is it tagging aggregate? Okay, yeah, let me try this. Um, tagging's aggregate, and then you can get the node of the book. And we want to order by book users count descending and limit 10. Okay, I got the same, basically the same one. I'm assuming if we do distinct on this, it's probably gonna say the same thing. Yeah, I think this is kind of where you get into like the limitations of our API and why we want to like redo some of this genre stuff, because getting like something as simple as the top couple books in a genre, not really something that's easily possible right now. I mean, I'm struggling with it, so I'm gonna move on, but future use for us. Okay. Suna Cal in the chat asked, can I easily see what books contribute to a specific goal? So yeah, let's see. Um, can we? So we have like goals where user ID equals 1. And I think actually this might not be possible from the API now that I think about it. Because the way that we get the books for these goals is like um, we have like this Ruby code that runs a query, and this is like getting all of your books. So let's see, maybe we can reverse engineer this. So goal.userBook reads. Right. Okay. So this is behind the scenes how we get all of the books that are part of your goal. And the problem is that we have this conditions object that's part of the goal, which is this one. And this condition object is basically run through some Ruby code to hit our database, and then that's what generates the books that are part of the goal. So I think what we'd have to do to make those books available is to create a new API endpoint that then returns the result of this. Um, but I don't think that would be possible today. I think you would have to basically get the condition and then make another query that's like get all the books with like all these conditions in your library. So yeah, that's a good takeaway for me that we do not have a way to do that right now. And let's see, when it comes to queries, we've kind of talked a lot about like querying data and getting back data, but one of the other most common things is like making changes to your own data in the database, and that's possible through a mutation. So mutations are like GraphQL's other big form. There's also subscriptions, but we don't use those right now, at least. It would be fun to try. And when you change this over to mutation, all of a sudden you see all of our mutations that we have in the database. And most of these are in the form like delete, insert, update, or upsert. So upsert's kind of like create or insert. So like for instance, these are pretty direct. It's really just like here's a bunch of data. Uh, update this object with this ID, and you need to know the exact ID of that item that you're wanting to update. So, for instance, is probably like update goal one since I already have that up right there. So if you say like update goal 65, and then you could basically send all of this that you wanted to it, and then get back any data about it. So like you know, this is a things like this. And then some of these are not the best documented, like metric, for instance. Um, so I think the best way to figure out those options today is likely going to be to like look at your goal and then see, because I think the options were probably like book and pages. Yeah, page. Oh yeah, interesting. Yeah. Uh, Jacob says that this is the only way to delete a goal because there's only archive on the interface, which yeah, you're right. That's probably something we should add on the interface. Um, but yeah, these goals, oh, int, and at least it gave an error, but let me just get rid of this because I don't want the conditions at all. And it looks like, oh no, it looks like conditions is required. So I'm gonna just do that and spell it right. And yeah, I'm not like providing everything, but yeah, that's kind of the idea. You would actually provide all the things you want to update and probably not have two condition rows. I think probably one of the most common things here is probably just like updating your status in a book from like read to not read, or updating progress. That's here in like update user book or update user book read, which update your, this would be used to like update your status to, from 1 to 2, or update your a user book to update your like progress in seconds or your progress in pages from whatever it is to whatever you want it to be. Let's see. Let's see. Well, if anyone has any questions about the API, feel free to drop them in the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to keep just kind of going around ones that I feel like are neat. um, I think one of the ones that I want to figure out how to use more is the reading journal one, especially since that's now like integrated with the Kobo hardcover plugin. And that is this reading journals one. So basically the same as before, or user one, and then you can get like the title of the book that a reading journal entry is for, and then um, like the entry. And since reading journals have a lot of different events, the event probably is one of the most useful parts here. So like project, so like progress updated, referral to is a neat one. So like a referral to means like someone found this book because of you, like they saved it to their profile because you they saw it on your page or your activity or something like that. And user book started reading. You could have added it to a list. You could have finished it. So yeah, there's a lot of different events that all trigger adding reading journal entries. So it's kind of neat to just see a feed of these. It's kind of like your own private feed. Let's see, what else would be useful to cover, or most commonly requested or have issues with. Uh, when it comes to recommendations, there is a table for it, but we're kind of in the process of like designing a new recommendation system. So I lean away from using that part of our API for now. Mm, yeah, lists are another like big part of hardcover, obviously, and they are probably one of the most straightforward parts of the system. So like every list you create has a um, a slug and a name. So these will all be at like hardcover.app slash at your username slash lists slash this. And from there, if you wanted to get the books on a list, let me just limit this to one, just to it's a little smaller. And then within a list, there's this list books. So that's like a join table between your list and the books table. And I'd recommend like you can order this by position. That way it's if this is an ordered list, it'll order it by that. And then you can say book and title. So yeah, easy. I was reading AI books for my spooky season books. These are all the AI books I've been recently reading or queuing up to read. And when it comes to the list books, there's not too much else there. Lists have a privacy setting, as do most things. Actually, this privacy setting is probably a good one to mention. So privacy setting is an option on lists. So, or it's an option on most places. It's an option on user books, on lists, on prompts, even on your taggings. Or no, not on taggings are public. That's kind of public across the system. But pretty much everything else that's personal to you will have a privacy setting. And I think this privacy setting, let's see, setting, so it is public. I think pretty much all of mine are public. Let's see if any of them have private. Oh wait, yeah, our local snapshots of the database that we take from production to local host delete everything that's private, which is why nothing's private or friends only. But if something was friends only, then this ID here would be different. So privacy setting ID is on the list, and then privacy setting is the relation over to the privacy settings table. So pretty much everything that has an ID probably has a table. Uh, I didn't really use enums for this, so that way the info would kind of be self-documenting. So like, privacy settings table just has 3 rows, public, followers, and private. And let's see. Mm, I know there's quite a few other like librarian related parts of books. Like there are book collections, which is something we track on the book edit page, but we don't really use it that much yet. But I'm really excited to eventually. When like a book has multiple other books that are included in it, like like a Tom Sawyer Huck Finn combination book is kind of both of those books, and how we indicate that at the database level. It's kind of an edge case, but other things like that are like characters in a book or publisher of a book, things like that. Um, and even like book mappings is another one, which is our like connection between a book and an external source that we're getting data from it. But chances are, unless you're doing like crazy librarian stuff, you probably won't be using that. I think maybe the last one I'll mention here is additions. So, we talked about how a book is kind of a representation of an entire like concept. So like every language, every edition, every format, it's only going to have one book that exists on hardcover. So like, this one, I'll do this one again. Um, but this book is going to have many editions, and each edition is going to have potentially an ISBN, an ASIN, a cover image. Um, it's and oh yeah, speaking of cover images, um, also in the book there's a cached image, and this will kind of have this object that includes the URL to the full cover. And likewise, for all the editions, you can get that image. And for the edition, every edition pretty much has a lot of the same duplicate information as a book. The only thing we don't duplicate is the description, because we only provide that at the book level. But there are these all these different variants of this one. Most of them are the same, but when someone imports like a book like this, um, we might end up creating it as a duplicate, and then eventually someone will mark it as a duplicate, and it'll be merged in as a edition as part of this book, rather than a separate book altogether. And as more people do that, and as more books are input from different languages, countries, like our edition mapping gets better and better. And these also have the like release date and year. It's kind of weird that release year is null. Didn't realize that. I guess we maybe deprecated that field and are just using release date. Um, let's see, did subtitle disappear from the edition form? I think subtitle should be at the, should that be at the book level only? Yeah, it seems like, I think that did disappear and we moved it up to book level only, kind of like description. That way we don't have to worry about having different subtitles for different editions when we really just want one of them. That's kind of a, um, yeah, it kind of won't change per edition. Well, I guess it could. And there's like a different special editions might have different subtitles. I could see that, but I think of the subtitle as like being associated with the. Oh, it's not on the book level either. Weird. Okay, let's see. Um, mm, so let's say we have. Uh, wait for the page to load. Oh, I'm thinking of headline, not subtitle. Okay, right. Yeah, confusing those two. Um, yeah, I think we did get rid of subtitle. Like, I think subtitle, the concept was initially like we have a long title, like I think like Freakonomics, like a rogue economist explores the inside of everything. We had the Originally we had Freakonomics as the title and this as the subtitle, and the more I learned about like how other sites are organizing their book data, they're just using the full title, whatever it is, according to the publisher, as the title. And then we kind of break that down to show it like this to make it a little easier on the eyes. But we're not splitting them up to subtitle anymore. That way it's like there's one thing, it's the title, but on the interface, we might break it up if we can. Um, And then, okay, so yeah, that's additions. Um, and yeah, they're broken up based on the colon right now. I think that's the only character. Um, let's see, I can actually just book header, and then we have the title, and then subtitle. So how is subtitle? Okay, so we parse title. Yep, yep, that's it. It's just like if it's less than 60 characters, um, yeah, this is the entirety of the code that splits it up. So yeah, if it's less than 60 characters, then we just use the title. If it's more than 60 characters, then and it has a colon in it, then we split it on the colon. So yeah, that's kind of the entire logic for it. But yeah, I think that I think that covers quite a bit. Yeah, any other questions before we call it a night? Yeah. Thanks, Jacob. Yeah, I think I have a feeling that this 60 character split was probably based on like how much we could do on a mobile screen, because we do something where like I want to say the size of this even changes, or at least we had it at one point where like the font size, we were like dynamically setting the font size based on how big the book title was so that it would look really nice when it wrapped. And I think this kind of simplified a lot of that, by using this like only break when it's has a colon in it. Cool. Um, well, yeah, I think that's probably a good place to stop for the night. And yeah, if you ever have any questions, the best place to go, and I'm saying this less for the current Discord chat and more for the YouTube video for later, is over here to the API channel on Discord. And this is pretty active. So, I'm going to scroll way up and it's still like last month. So people are asking a lot of questions and replying in a lot of threads. And yeah, very, very often someone will chime in before I even chime in. So we have a very active community and team kind of helping out on this because everyone wants to have a good place for open free data for their books, and I'm glad that we are able to fill that niche right now. So um yeah, thanks. Let me figure out how to get back to my there it is. Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen here. Yeah, thanks everyone, and yeah, feel free to jump in our Discord and ask some questions about our API if you ever have something fun you're doing with books. And yeah, if you ever build something fun, we also have a channel called Show and Tell. So you can go and like share what you've created using the API in that channel. Um, it's there's so many places on the web where self promo is not really allowed. And I think of that show and tell place as like, go wild. You've created something cool, you're excited to share it with the world, post it in there and see what people think. So yeah, go create cool stuff with books.